We are Nutrition Services from Second Harvest Food Bank. I'm Shalika.
I'm Sherry.
And I'm Shruti.
Today we're going to be doing 2 recipes from South America. We're covering sweets from South America. So we have Choco Torta from Argentina and Conjica out of Brazil. This is our 3rd video in our World Culinary Tour. Check out our other videos for recipes from other parts of the world. We have appetizers from Asia and entrees from Europe.
And remember, don't yuck my yum. This series is meant to increase exposure to foods from around the world and feature a bunch of new things you may not have seen before and find healthier alternatives to them.
All right, let's continue our World Flavor Tour with sweets from South America. For our Choco Torta, we have 2 packages of 8-ounce each low-fat cream cheese at room temperature. We have 1 can of dulce de leche. We have about a half cup to a cup of fat-free milk. We have 2 6-ounce packages of chocolate biscuit cookies. And then for garnish, we have some cocoa powder and some whipped cream. We celebrate birthdays with cake. In Argentina, it's Choco Torto, which actually does mean chocolate cake, but this is more of an icebox cake. So we actually take wafer cookies, chocolate wafer cookies, we're going to soak them. That's going to create our cake layer. And then we're going to make a filling that is spread between layers of cookies to give it a nice sweet, creamy texture. And that you let it sit in the icebox to let the liquid soak into the cookies, and that'll soften them up. So it will be similar to a cake-like texture, but much easier. So we're going to take our cream cheese and put it in a bowl. Going to make our fillings first here. Okay. And then we're going to take our dulce de leche. Which is a wonderful caramel color, and it's like thin caramel actually, or like a thick caramel, sorry. It's like a thick caramel, but not quite the solid caramels you would eat as candy. It's a little bit thinner than that. Okay, so I've got that in my bowl. I'm just going to use that as a spoon rest. Okay, and then we're just going to blend that on low. That's why it's so important to have your cream cheese at room temperature, so it'll blend much easier. So I've been mixing for a little bit here. I'm going to scrape the bowl a little bit, scrape the sides, to kind of get the parts of the ingredients that haven't really mixed in yet into my mixture. And it's got this wonderful caramel color to it, and it's going to be nice and sweet from the dulce de leche and creamy from the cream cheese. And we use low-fat cream cheese to reduce the fat content because, it's dessert, but we're registered dietitians, so so we want to be a little bit healthy. So our filling mixture is done. It's all completely combined, the cream cheese and the dulce de leche. So I'm just going to set this aside. And now we have to start building our layers of cake, of Choco Torta. So to do that, we have about a half cup to a cup of milk in a little bowl. And we're actually just going to dip the cookies into the milk and then just place them in the bottom of our pan. And you don't have to grease this or anything. It'll be fine. So I'm just going to take the cookies and dip them in the milk and then just place them in my dish. And then as this sets in the ice box, because you need to refrigerate it for about 4 hours or overnight, the milk will soak into the cookies. You can also use, if you don't want to use milk, you can also use brewed coffee that's been cooled. Gives it a coffee flavor that way. We're going to build a layer of cookies on the bottom of our dish here. Fill it in the hole here. We just keep going until we build that first layer. Then once we've built that first layer, we will put a layer of our filling mixture in there. So we've got our layer of cookies on the bottom. We've dipped them all in milk and we've arranged them here to create our bottom layer of cake. So for our Choco Torta, I'm just going to take big dollops of my filling and put them around. Just using half right now because we're going to build another layer on top of this. And now I'm just going to gently spread the filling over my cookies. It's a little tricky there. They want to stick to the filling and move around on me. But I'll just spread this around until all the cookies are covered. And then after that, I will put another layer of cookies on top and another layer of my filling. And then we put it in the icebox to let it set up. Starting on our second layer of cookies, we've got our layer of cookies on the bottom, and then we've got our layer of filling. And now I'm putting another layer of cookies, and I'm kind of filling in the edges. You have to get a little creative. I'm actually breaking the cookies in half. Sometimes they break nicely, sometimes they don't, like that one. But I'm actually kind of filling in the holes. And that's okay, because they'll be covered up with the filling anyway, so. And we just continue until we have a whole layer of cookies all the way across again. We've got our Choco Torta all prepared now and ready for the icebox. What I'm going to do is just take some of my cocoa powder here and just give it a dusting, some garnish on top. And you can actually put this in a little a sifter if you have one, or a small strainer, make it a little bit prettier. But that's the beauty of this recipe. It's so simple. It's not going, the fact that it's not absolutely perfect isn't going to affect the flavor at all. So you do it however you want to do it. So this goes into the refrigerator for at least 4 hours or overnight if you can. And when you bring it out, the cookies will have absorbed the liquid and the moisture from the filling, and it'll be a nice cake texture there. And then you'll garnish it with some whipped cream, or if you wanted to melt some chocolate, you could garnish with some more chocolate, and you have your Choco Torta. And now that we're done with our Choco Torta, now we'll move on to our Conjica. We have 2½ cups of hominy. We have 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. We have 1½ cups of full-fat coconut milk. We have 4 cups of whole milk, 1 cup of shredded coconut, and then we have cinnamon and cloves.
The second half of our video, we are going to be making hominy pudding, also known as canjica, also known as mugunza, depending on the region of Brazil, that they call it different things. So what's really great about this pudding is it's super, super easy. You'll see that in just a moment. And once you make it, you're going to want to make it over and over again because it is just that good. Very similar to the American rice pudding, if you've heard of that before. And this can be eaten in the summer as well as the winter, and that's what's so great about it. Super versatile. And we're going to learn a little bit more about the culture behind this, as well as how we can make it in our own way with some healthier alternatives. So for our hominy pudding, our canjica, what's really great about it is all we have to do is put it all into a pot. So we're going to take all of our ingredients momentarily, put it into this pot, get it to a nice rolling boil, and then let that simmer and ride out for about 20 to 30 minutes. And why 20 to 30 and not just a solid number is because you can heat it up to the thickness you prefer. So it's really up to you and what you would like to see. Some people like it a little thicker, some people like it a little more runny. And the great part about it is super affordable and fast to make, so you can try it a few different times and see what you like best. But for today's recipe, we're gonna heat it to about 25 minutes, right in that sweet spot in between. And let's get started. So for my hot plate today, I'm going to turn that up to a nice heat, about a 3 out of 6. Just let that get hot, and while that's heating up, we don't have to wait for it to get fully heated up. We're just going to go ahead and pretty much add everything in. So first, we're going to go ahead and add our coconut milk. You can use a full fat coconut milk, or you can use a mixture of fat coconut milk as well as some coconut water if you'd like to thin that down. So I'm going to go ahead and add my coconut milk in there. Beautiful, super opaque. We're then going to add our kernels right here. You can use dried kernels. You can use dried kernels if you'd like, or you can use these type of canned kernels that are already, softened, pretty squishy, and already usable. You can throw them right in. But with the dried ones, you're just going to want to let that soak and tenderize first. And a really interesting thing actually about these corn kernels, why using hominy in the first place? Hominy is a very interesting kernel that's been treated with alkali through a process called nixtamalization. And that is what is making it this kind of softer, tenderized looking kernel. Really interesting. So we'll add that in. Next, we'll be adding our ground clove. This clove is going to give a whole lot of smell, flavor, you name it. It's just adding a whole lot to this dish in terms of flavor. So we're going to add that in. And then we're going to go ahead and add our coconut flakes. You can buy dried coconut flakes. You can use frozen as well, whichever you prefer. We will then add our milk. With the milk, you can use full-fat milk, or a healthier substitution would be low-fat milk. You can use low-fat milk, you can use almond milk, oat milk. Oat milk tends to heat better if you want to use a plant-based milk. And we're going to add our condensed milk right here, a whole can of that. With the condensed milk too, you can have some variation. So you can use low-fat condensed milk as well. Not much difference there in the consistency. It's going to still be really, really yummy. And finally, we're going to add some cinnamon. This cinnamon will give a whole lot of flavor. You can use ground cinnamon like I'm using here, or you can go ahead and use some cinnamon sticks. Whatever you think is preferable for your liking, but I just went ahead and used some ground cinnamon. Really like that concentrated cinnamon flavor. And we're going to want to save a little bit of that ground cinnamon for the end because it makes for a great garnish for our pudding today. So all of our ingredients for the Conjica are within the pot. They're cooking away. We're just going to let that come up to a rolling boil and then let that simmer for about 20 to 30 minutes, 25 in our case here today. So now that that's in there, we're really going to be watching for consistency throughout. Just check it a few times, give it a quick mix. So it looks like our hominy pudding or Conjica is just about done. It smells lovely in here. I wish you all could be in here with me and smell it. It smells like all that cinnamon, that clove really coming through. And the great part about it is when we started this journey, that Conjica was looking really pale, and now it is a very dark brown and thickened consistency. All of the sweetened condensed milk, the coconut flakes, and the condensed milk, as well as the milk and the corn kernels all cooking down, becoming softened. It just looks and smells amazing, and I bet it'll taste amazing. So let's talk about that. As well as a little bit about the cooking process. There's going to be when you're cooking this up and starting to simmer it, there will be a little bit of a layer that forms at the bottom of the pot. So just make sure to stir it occasionally as it's simmering. Don't just let it sit there. But once that process is done, how we're going to serve this is we're going to divide it into bowls. And you can add some cinnamon on there, some crushed peanuts. You can even put fruit on there, and that would be a really nice crunch or a nice little citrus flavor to go with that and cut up that richness of the pudding. And you can even put granola and really make this pudding your own. So the decoration is the fun part. Now we're just going to add our cinnamon as a garnish, a little decoration here. And there we have it, our Conjica.
Thank you for joining us today on our tour of South American sweets. Eat well!